President Trump and Fed Chairman Jerome Powell clash over Fed headquarters renovation costs. On the afternoon of July 24, 2025, President Donald Trump made a rare visit to the headquarters of the Federal Reserve in Washington, D.C. to inspect the renovation project of two historic Fed buildings, including the Marriner S. Eccles Building and the facility at 1951 Constitution Avenue. Accompanying the president were Fed Chairman Jerome Powell and Republican Senator Scott, chairman of the Senate Banking Committee. The visit took place amid ongoing tensions, as the White House and Republicans have criticized the Fed for cost overruns on the project. Details of the public dispute. During a press conference at the construction site, President Trump openly challenged Chairman Powell on the renovation costs, claiming the project had significantly exceeded its budget. "We've looked at it, and it seems the cost is $3.1 billion. Up a little or from $2.7 billion, and now it's $3.1 billion, Trump stated, standing alongside Powell and Senator Scott, all wearing hard hats. Trump even pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket and handed it to Powell as evidence of the new cost figure. However, Powell, known for his calm demeanor, immediately pushed back. Shaking his head, he said, "I don't know this information. I haven't heard anyone at the Fed mention that cost figure." When Trump insisted the $3.1 billion figure was just released, Powell asked to see the document and quickly identified the issue. "Oh, you've included the renovation of the Martin Building. You've added another building," Powell pointed out, referring to the William McChesney Martin Building, a Fed facility renovated and completed 5 years earlier in 2020. President Trump argued that the Martin Building was part of the overall project, but Powell firmly refuted this, stating, "That building wasn't newly built." The tense exchange unfolded in front of cameras, marking a rare public confrontation between the president and the Fed chairman over a financial matter. Background of tensions between Trump and Powell. This clash was the culmination of a prolonged campaign by the White House to pressure Jerome Powell, who has been a frequent target of Trump's criticism for multiple reasons. First, Trump has repeatedly called on the Fed to lower interest rates to stimulate the economy, particularly as his tariff policies risk fueling inflation. However, under Powell's leadership, the Fed has maintained interest rates between 4.25% and 4.5% since January 2025, citing the need to assess the impact of tariffs before making changes. Second, the Fed's headquarters renovation has become a political lightning rod. Initially approved in 2017 with an estimated cost of $1.9 billion, the project's budget has risen to $2.5 billion due to factors such as inflation, rising construction material costs, and requirements to preserve the building's historic architecture. The Fed has explained that the buildings, constructed in the 1930s, required major upgrades to remove asbestos and lead, as well as to replace outdated electrical, plumbing, heating, and ventilation systems. Modern security measures such as blast-resistant windows and earthquake-proof walls also contributed to the cost increase. The White House, particularly Office of Management and Budget Director Russell Vought, has accused Powell of mismanagement and even violating oversight regulations related to the project. Some officials have claimed the project includes extravagant features like a rooftop terrace, VIP dining rooms, and high-end marble, though Powell has denied these allegations during a congressional hearing in June 2025. Trump's political strategy. Analysts view Trump's visit as part of a broader effort to pressure Powell, potentially with the aim of finding grounds to remove him before his term ends in May 2026. However, a recent Supreme Court ruling clarified that the Fed chairman can only be dismissed for cause, such as serious misconduct, not for policy disagreements like interest rates. As a result, the White House appears to be using the renovation project as a pretext to accuse Powell of mismanagement or lack of transparency. During the press conference, when asked how he would handle a project manager who overspent, Trump bluntly replied, "I'd fire them." However, he added that he didn't want to criticize behind someone's back and suggested firing Powell was not necessary, expressing hope that Powell would do the right thing, a likely reference to lowering interest rates. Fed and financial community response. Powell has requested the Fed's Inspector General to review the renovation project in response to the White House's criticisms. The Fed also published an fact page on its website to clarify the costs, emphasizing that there are no VIP dining rooms, private elevators, or luxurious features as alleged. They attributed the cost increases to inflation, security requirements, and compliance with historic preservation regulations. Financial markets had mixed reactions. The S&P 500 saw a slight uptick despite Trump's pressure, but analysts warned that removing Powell could destabilize the economy, potentially driving up inflation and interest rates. Some experts believe the White House's criticisms aim to undermine Powell's credibility, even if they don't lead to his dismissal. External factors. Notably, in 2020, 3 Trump-appointed members of the National Capital Planning Commission, NCPC, insisted on using additional Georgia white marble for the building's facades instead of glass, as originally planned by the Fed, to align with the structure's historic character. This contradicts the White House's claims that Powell overspent on lavish marble. Additionally, the Fed noted that cost increases were partly due to tariffs and inflation, particularly in 2021 to 2022, which drove up prices for materials like steel and cement. Underground construction, required due to Washington's height restrictions, also added to the expenses. Conclusion. The confrontation between President Trump and Chairman Powell at the Fed's headquarters on July 24, 2025, highlighted the ongoing political and economic tensions between the White House and the independent central bank. While Trump seeks to exert influence to achieve his policy goals, Powell remains steadfast in defending the Fed's independence and the transparency of the renovation project. This event was not merely a dispute over construction costs, but a reflection of a broader power struggle with potential implications for the U.S. economy.